Hey Stampin' friends, it's Patty here from StampPatties.com. Today I am going to share what I am calling a debossed watercoloring technique. We are going to use a brand new product, our 3D sunflower folder, which I am so in love with, and we are going to create this project right here. So let's get this camera set up and ready to go, and we'll be underway. All right, so let's talk about some of the other products that we're going to be using today. So in addition to our Sunflower 3D folder, I am using a bundle called Thoughtful Moments, and this includes a hybrid embossing folder and the die. So for those of you that aren't familiar, a hybrid folder is one where the die sits right inside the folder. So let me show that to you. So the die is designed to sit right inside the folder. So when you put your piece of paper on there and you roll it through the emboss and die cutting machine, it's going to cut and emboss at the same time. We're going to be using this one down here that says Just Because. I am using Tuxedo Black Memento ink, Pecan Pie, Granny Apple Green, Daffodil Delight, Darling Duckling. I'm also using some of the Darling Duckling Grow Grain ribbon, and I'm going to be using watercolor painters. So I am not using watercolor paper. I'm actually using just plain white paper. My card base is a thick white. It is cut 5.5 by 8.5, and it is scored in the middle at 4 1/4. I have a piece of Granny Apple Green, which is 4 1/4. Let's just see. 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And a piece of plain white, whisper white, or basic white cardstock. And this measures 3 3/4 by 5. So 3 3/4 by 5. So what I'm going to do first, through the magic of TV, is I'm going to get my paper put into my embossing folder. I'm going to go ahead and emboss it off screen, and I'll be right back to show you and go on to the next step. All right, so through a little bit of magic. So what I want you to see here is just how gorgeous this embossed image is. So this is the raised side, and if I flip this over, this is what I call the debossed side. That is the side that I am going to be coloring on. So let's go ahead and get started. So I am using a clear acrylic block, and I am going to start with the Daffodil Delight. And I am just going to put my block in that ink. I'm collecting the ink on the block, and I am going to use one of my water painters, and I am going to color all of the petals. I'm going to go ahead and squeeze this water because I want it to be a true watercolor. So I am going to paint all of the petals. The first coat is going to all be in Daffodil Delight. Okay, so again, I'm on the debossed side and coloring in the grooves, and I'm okay if I get a little bit off track or some of it's lighter than the other. That is totally fine. And if you're not sure that you're coloring the right part of the image, what I do is I kind of turn it over and say, okay, I want to make sure that I'm doing all of these petals and these that are right here. And then I think I'm going to do some of this green as if it was being held kind of like as a little cup. So let's see. These are definitely going to be yellow. And I'm actually going to put a coat of this daffodil even in the middle here, and I'm going to differentiate that in a little bit. So let me go ahead and finish coloring all this yellow, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so I have my first coat, and this was with daffodil. Now, if I want it lighter, I just added a little bit more water. I don't mind that deep golden color. I kind of like it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually just clean off my daffodil off my block. And now I'm going to open my Darling Duckling ink. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to ink it up really good. Oh, this is a brand new juicy one, so as you can see. So I am actually just going to do some of the inside with this duckling, which is going to make it a little bit darker. And I'm squeezing a little bit more water on there to kind of get my paper to be a little bit rougher. And then maybe even some of that just for a few accent lines where the artist on the image has those nice little variegated lines. Okay, I'm good with that. Okay, so I'm going to clean this block off again, and then I'm going to get my Granny Apple Green because I'm going to repeat that process for the leaves using Granny Apple. So again, I'm stamping my block to get myself a nice little base, cleaning off my watercolor brush. There we go. Okay, and now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just squeezing this to get a little bit more water, get me a little bit more ink flowing, and again, I'm painting on that debossed side. And you might be saying to yourself, like, I don't understand how this is going to work. Well, you know what? You're going to be delightfully surprised. And on the next step, you may gasp a little bit and say, oh my God, what is she doing? So anyway, I don't want to bore you watching me color. So I'll get this finished and get right back to you to tell you the next step. All right, I think I'm happy with the green. Again, that was Granny Apple Green. I've got one last color that I want to add, and I'm doing this just to get a little bit more depth into my item. So let me get my pecan pie. And I'm going to use just a little bit of this to put in the center here. Again, just to give a little bit more depth to this. And it's no perfect rhyme or reason, just kind of wherever my brush stroke takes me. And I think I'm going to be good with that. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and then I'll be back with you through the magic of TV. All right, we're ready for the next step. We're going to take our tuxedo black ink. Don't get crazy, anxious about this. You just got to do it. You're going to make sure it's inked really well, and you are going to be rubbing that ink pad across the surface of this project. And because we're on the debossed side, we're going to be getting specifically to the parts that are raised up. These little corners that are, sticking out, I want to really make sure that I get the black in there. I'm okay. I'm not particularly fond of the fact that there's so much black right there, but I actually think I'm going to leave it just the way it is. So do some gentle rubbing. I'm using my glass mat, and the reason I like to use my glass mat is because with a little damp wipe, it cleans right on up. So there we have our somewhat finished image. And now what I am going to do is I'm going to try to get my area a little bit dry. Okay, I am going to use my glue. I am going to adhere this to the Granny Apple Green piece, which is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And then I am going to take some of my Darling Duckling ribbon, and I am going to tie a knot. And I am going to, for this one, I'm going to put this knot kind of on this side. I want to hide a little bit of that black. I think I got a little bit too heavy-handed. I got too excited in doing this video. And then this layer is going to go onto my card front. Oh, look what I just did. I didn't let it dry. So just so you know, you need to let this dry. I'm going to cut another piece of this material, of this card material, but this is what my finished project will look like. And the only thing I have left to do is to use my hybrid folder. I'm going to use a piece of Granny Apple Green right here, run it through my machine, and then I'm going to use some dimensionals to pop it up. That says just because. So when you are all done, this is what your finished project will look like. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you wouldn't mind doing me a favor, down in the bottom corner down there, can you click the subscribe button and the like button, and make sure you share this video with your friends. Thanks so much. Happy stamping.